for April the 30th, 1990. I'm David Carter, Speaker of the Legislative Assembly and member of the Assembly for Calgary-Egmont. After question period today, the House will be sitting in Committee of Supply, dealing with the estimates of the Department of Public Works Supply and Services. This evening, the House will sit from 8 o'clock on till probably about 10:30, dealing mainly with third readings of bills related to the Premier's Council on Science and Technology, Department of Consumer and Corporate Affairs, Licensing of Trades and Businesses Amendment Act, Insurance Amendment Act, Alberta Healthcare Insurance Amendment Act, Change of Name Amendment Act, Individual Rights Protection Amendment, and Petroleum Incentives Program Amendment Act. Let us pray. As Canadians and as Albertans, we give thanks for the precious gifts of freedom and peace which we enjoy. As members of this Legislative Assembly, we rededicate ourselves to the valued traditions of parliamentary democracy as a means of serving our province and our country. Amen.
Introduction of visitors, presenting petitions, reading and receiving petitions, presenting reports by standing and special committees, notices of motions.
Member for Edmonton Gold Bar.
Mr. Speaker, I give notice that at the completion of question period today, I will move to adjourn the ordinary business of the Assembly to discuss the urgent matter of the possible job action of Local 6 of the Alberta Union of Provincial Employees.
Introduction of bills, tabling returns and reports.
The 1988-89 annual report for the Department of Tourism.
Minister of Technology, Research, Telecommunications.
Mr. Speaker, it is my pleasure to table the 16th annual report of the Alberta Educational Communications Corporation.
Thank you, Solicitor General.
Mr. Speaker, it's my pleasure to table the response to written question number 225 on the order paper.
Yeah. I'll go higher. Minister of Culture, Multiculturalism.
Speaker, I'd like to introduce to you today and to other members of the Legislative Assembly 16 students and 2 teachers from the Allendale Elementary and Junior High School in the great, thriving, burgeoning, and gorgeous constituency of Edmonton Park, Allen. With the students today are their teacher, Ursula Bumpy, and the teacher's aide, Orleen Anderson. I would ask that they would rise in the members' gallery and receive a warm welcome.
Edmonton Kingsway.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's my pleasure today to introduce 28 students from St. Andrew's School in my constituency. They are accompanied by their teacher, Mr. John Landry, and they're in the public gallery. I would request that they rise and receive the warm welcome of the Assembly.
Member for Edmonton Highlands.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's my pleasure today to introduce to members of the Assembly, through you, 22 students from Concordia College, which has a peculiarly beautiful vantage point overlooking the North Saskatchewan River in Edmonton Highlands. They're accompanied today by teacher Lloyd Grossfield, sitting in the public gallery. I'd ask them to rise and receive the traditional welcome of the Assembly.
Ministerial statements. Oral question period.
To the Premier, Mr. Speaker, the Premier has steadfastly, up to the present time, refused to do a decent investigation into the alleged conflict of interest for the Redwater MLA, Mr. Speaker. On Friday, literally on a silver platter, I sent him over a cassette of the public meeting held on April the 5th in Smoky Lake so he could hear for himself, finally, Mr. Speaker, the comments made by the member for Redwater Andrew. Now, Mr. Speaker, the Premier must now have heard the people at the meeting, the member himself leading the people at the meeting to believe he was still the owner of the property in question. Just 4 days later, Mr. Speaker, the same member stood in this assembly and directly contradicted that statement, saying he sold that land on March the 2nd. Mr. Speaker, and if that isn't enough, the tape also shows clearly the member using his position as an MLA and a government insider to influence the decision of the town council.
Shame.
My question to the Premier, Mr. Speaker, does the Premier back up the MLA from Redwater Andrews' contention it would be years before funding might be available to locate the chicken processing plant in a competing subdivision?
Mr. Speaker, very difficult to know in such a matter as this, because obviously an application would have to be made and then it would be assessed by the Department of Transportation and Utilities, and regarding competing priorities, perhaps if there was already land available, that type of thing. But he's really dealing with a hypothetical situation. It's very difficult to know.
Mr. Speaker, on the contrary, it's not hypothetical. The member from Redwater Andrews said that at that meeting. And if the Premier must be aware of that if you listen to the tape, Mr. Speaker.
Yeah.
Now, Mr. Speaker, we talked to Mr. Alec Waters, the Director of Municipal Services for the Department of Transportation and Utilities, on Friday. He told us, Mr. Speaker, that approximately $6 million in the 1990-91 budget for municipal water and sewage grants is uncommitted, Mr. Speaker. That's not hypothetical. The chicken processing plant itself might have qualified for assistance from another program that I mentioned the other day, Mr. Speaker. I want to ask the Premier this, Mr. Speaker. Doesn't the Premier have any problem at all with one of his members standing up at a public meeting and misinforming constituents on the availability of government assistance?
Well, Mr. Speaker, misinformation is coming right now from the Honourable Leader of the Opposition. We want to talk about misinformation. But perhaps, Mr. Speaker, the Honourable Minister of Transportation and Utilities may want to respond. But it's clear, Mr. Speaker, that there's always going to be some period of time in which requests, if they come, have to be assessed. As I said earlier, it's a hypothetical situation, and it's very difficult to know how long judgment would take.
Mr. Speaker, it's sort of see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil, Mr. Speaker. Now, Mr. Speaker, I wonder if the Premier has even looked at the tape that I even sent across to him, Mr. Speaker, because if he did, he must admit that the member for Redwater Andrew told both his constituents and what he later told the legislature can't be the same, Mr. Speaker. There's two different statements. And the member used his position as a government MLA to back up incorrect information on the unavailability of government funding, Mr. Speaker. And again, I want to come back to the Premier. Why isn't this enough to satisfy the Premier that a public investigation into this affair is the only way that he's going to put this to rest, Mr. Speaker?
Hear, hear.
Mr. Speaker, I listened to the tape, and there's nothing new in that tape. It was a public meeting. It wasn't a secret meeting. There was people there. They were Albertans who were dealing with problems, as they should, that face their community. And I thought the meeting was handled very well, and there was clearly debates, there was questions, there was concerns, and in the end they were trying to solve a problem facing their community. Nothing sinister at all in that tape.
Second main question, Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, will pay the political price.
Hear, hear.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to direct my second question to the Minister of Labor. Now, Mr. Speaker, the Alberta social workers have now confirmed that they intend to launch some sort of job action come tomorrow to back up their demands for lower caseloads and wage parity with other government workers. Now, Mr. Speaker, despite the fact that regressive provincial laws make it illegal for these social workers to withdraw their services, they feel so frustrated and angry, they believe that they have no choice in this matter, Mr. Speaker. The number of cases each worker is trying to juggle is so high that the union says its members may actually be breaking a law right now, be actually violating their own Social Work Act, Mr. Speaker, not to mention their own code of ethics. Mr. Speaker, they feel they're doing a disservice to the clients that they have to represent. My question is to the Minister of Labor. How does the Minister of Labor defend draconian labor laws that could make criminals out of hardworking, dedicated social workers who simply want to do their jobs properly?
Mr. Speaker, it's true that talks have broken down insofar as the social workers have walked away from the table. We have directed our negotiators to offer a mediator, and they have indeed done so. And we have also offered a mediator to Pat Walknitz, who is president of the Alberta Union of Public Employees, the umbrella organization. We are prepared, ready, and able to get back to the table and settle this contract. However, it's impossible to do. If you don't have two at the table, it takes two to tango. The social workers have walked off. We are waiting for them to come back, and in fact have offered them a mediator, which so far they have refused. We have heard and understood their concerns. They, however, are not responding to the solutions that we have put forward, and give them an opportunity to be a part of the solution, which I think is only proper that they be. Let me also say that we are very concerned about those people in need who are their clients, the people who are on welfare, and the people who do need intervention in families which are abusive. We understand that those people in need have only one place to go for the services that these social workers offer, and that is why, because there's nowhere else for those people in need to get those services, that is why social workers are an essential service, and that is why the law says that they cannot go out on strike. However, there are many ways to get this thing settled. One is to talk at the table, and I would sincerely ask those caring and professional social workers to come back to the table with a mediator, and let's get on to making a solution.
Mr. Speaker, the reason that they're out is that they feel their clients are being hurt because they're having too big a caseloads to be able to do the job for them in the first place, Mr. Speaker. That's what it's all about. But I want to ask again the Minister of Labor, is it reasonable, she's also the Minister in charge of women, is it reasonable to have laws that first of all, made criminals out of nurses, which are a majority of women, and now the possibility of making criminals out of social workers, Mr. Speaker, when they are just trying to reduce their indefensible caseloads and do something for their clients? Does that law make sense to this minister?
Mr. Speaker, Churchill once said that we'll never come to settling our differences if all we talk is war, 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 and we don't talk jaw, jaw, jaw. And that is what is missing here. If these people are professionals, and I do believe they are, and if they are caring, and I do believe they are, then come to the table, and let us discuss it. We have put a solution on the table, and the Minister of Family and Social Services may well wish to supplement my answer in this respect. We have put a proposal on the table as to how to come to some resolution over the service delivery issue, the caseload issue. But we cannot proceed with that without the social workers at the table. They are an essential part of the solution. I ask once again the social workers to come back to the table. The government negotiators are ready, they are willing, they are able, and they want to make some solution in this case.
Yes. Well, Mr. Speaker, the point is, talk is cheap. I haven't seen any offers from this government. The case loads have been going up the last 10 years, Mr. Speaker.
Right.
That's the reality, and the government's done nothing, Mr. Speaker. And I ask the minister, the social workers are fighting for a better system, so that their clients will be served better in the future. They are acting professionally, Mr. Minister, or Ms. Minister, or whatever that is, Mr. Speaker. And I want to ask the question, instead of forcing them to strike, why doesn't the government show some compassion for the poor that she's talking about and move to reduce the onerous caseloads that are there for social workers?
Mr. Speaker, that is the very issue that is being talked about at the table, and may I take this opportunity to remind the Honourable Leader of the Opposition that it subverts the collective bargaining process to try and hijack the whole system of talks and negotiations and mediation into this assembly. It is no good us talking about this matter, Mr. Speaker. It is up to the two parties to negotiate it, and they will negotiate it when those professional social workers come back to the table.
We can hear the answers, you know. Leader of the Liberal Party, please, Edmonton Glengarry.
Speaker, we're at the third anniversary of the signing of the Meech Lake Accord. A majority of Albertans, including Liberals in Alberta, do not like the Meech Lake Accord. In fact, the most recent poll showed that 3 times as many Albertans want the accord scrapped as want it kept. Leadership, Mr. Speaker, from Mr. Mulrooney on this issue has been non-existent, and leadership from our government has been less than inspiring. We've been more successful at giving in or caving in than in receiving. My first question is to the Deputy Premier. Given that Dr. Meekison is a key resource person in advising the government on Meech, and given that Dr. Meekison just only recently appeared before the Special Commons Committee dealing with the companion resolution, at which time he indicated that provisions of Meech could be separated, my question to the Deputy Premier is this: does this signal a new position of the Alberta government with respect to Meech Lake, that is, the severability of the provisions of Meech?
No, Mr. Speaker.
Well, it's a good thing to see that leadership hasn't changed and is still as ineffective as usual, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the fact is that Albertans have not had the opportunity to participate in debate on Meech or now on the companion resolution. The Special Commons Committee has ignored Alberta, won't come to Alberta to hear Albertans speak out on Meech or the companion resolution. My question to the Premier is this: will the Premier show some leadership and ask his Conservative pals in Ottawa to have that Special Commons Committee come to Alberta to allow Albertans to make representations on Meech and on the companion resolution? Well, Mr. Speaker, I think the Honourable Leader of the Liberal Party totally forgets, and I guess it's understandable, but totally forgets that the Meech Lake resolution was put before this Assembly and debated in this Assembly. It sat over some period of 6 months while members discussed the matter with all of their constituents, who then came and voted unanimously. Not split vote, not back and forth across this Assembly, unanimously supported it. Now, I wonder if he really understands the fact that this is a unanimous resolution of this Assembly. Mr. Speaker, given that the Special Commons Committee insults Albertans by not coming to our province to hear their views, but seems to travel everywhere else, isn't the Premier prepared to do something about that? To say to Ottawa, look, get that committee here, allow Albertans, however they wish to make their representations, to give them that opportunity to make those representations. Will he do that?
Taking us for granted.
Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, I see no difference in the two questions, and I've already responded.
For Banff Cochrane, followed by Stony Plain.
Mr. Speaker, Henry Morgenthaler has indicated an interest in establishing a freestanding abortion clinic in this province. I think everyone in this House is aware that both the federal government and the provincial governments have jurisdiction over various matters dealing with this very emotional and very difficult issue. My question is to our Minister of Health. With respect to Alberta's requirement to provide access to medical services, which I personally believe is well done and well considered within the ministry, could the minister indicate what this government's position is with respect to provincial funding for freestanding abortion clinics?
Mr. Speaker, just to be clear, Dr. Morgentaler did write me this month, and his letter does not ask for provincial assistance to set up a clinic, and nor does he suggest in his letter that he is going to establish his own clinic here in Alberta. Rather, what he offers is an offer of assistance to help the province set up a freestanding clinic. And in response to that offer, we will be replying that the province will not take him up on his offer because we have no intention of establishing a freestanding clinic here in Alberta. As I've indicated before on several occasions, I am not a proponent of freestanding clinics for this particular procedure for the following three reasons. The first, it is a procedure that, in my view, can and should be done in the existing hospital framework in our province. Number two, the issue of privacy is far better protected within a hospital setting than in a freestanding clinic setting. And thirdly, a facility fee can be charged in a freestanding clinic, as is the case with other freestanding clinics in the province, which would have to be paid by all getting service at that clinic. And it would be a fee that would have to be paid by everyone, including those who can ill afford it. For that reason, we will be responding no to his offer to assist him.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It appears that the College of Physicians and Surgeons has some sympathy and some empathy with the position of Dr. Morgentaler, and in light of that and in light of the information that the minister has provided to us, will the minister be meeting with the College of Physicians and Surgeons to clarify our provincial government's position and to, in turn, better understand the position of the College of Physicians and Surgeons?
Mr. Speaker, the issue of whether or not a freestanding clinic can be established in our province for any medical procedure is one that is appropriately decided, I believe, by the College of Physicians and Surgeons, because it is ultimately a question of the safety of a procedure being performed outside a hospital operating theater, and an issue of the qualifications of a physician and the issues of equipment within that freestanding clinic. In our province, in the past as well as now, those kinds of medical decisions are made by the college, and that continues today. There has been, however, a change in the bylaws by the college which would add this procedure to the list of procedures that can be done outside of a hospital environment, and that go-ahead, if you like, has been given by the college, but only if the issues of qualification of physicians and equipment, appropriate equipment, are provided.
Thank you. Stony Plain.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, today is the first day of Education Week and a good time to focus on the challenges in education. Today I'd like to focus on the problem of education funding and taxation equity, which has recently been studied by the Industrial Property Taxation Task Force. The report identifies the school board's increasing reliance on funding education through local school taxes. 33% of total education funding in 1987, up from 10% in 1971. Supplementary requisitions have increased some 800% per pupil between 1974 and 1987. My question to the Premier then is this: when will this government realize that the existing funding structure contributes to an unequal access to quality education across the province, and consequently that the province should fund at least 85% of basic education expenses?
Mr. Speaker, I'm sure that the Minister of Education will also review the question from the honourable member and perhaps will want to provide additional information. Mr. Speaker, the government of Alberta has identified education as our #1 priority. We have provided the dollars that the taxpayers of this province can provide. I remind the honourable members that government dollars aren't different than other taxpayers' dollars. They're all taxpayers' dollars.
Oh, come on.
Mr. Speaker, priorities can be talked about, and dollars, I know where they come from. However, the fact still remains that a child in one town may have access to, say, 4 guidance counselors, where in a similar situation in another town they may not have access to 1 or even any. The Minister of Education has himself admitted that this type of unequal access could be the subject of a challenge to this to his department under the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. Will the Premier make a commitment today to immediately address the critical issue of the unequal quality of education which kids receive in this province?
Well, Mr. Speaker, that matter is dealt with every day and on an annual basis as well in our budget. I should draw the honourable member's attention to the whole matter of fiscal equity in education funding is a large part of the Minister of Education's budget, in which he is able to try and make sure that to the greatest extent possible we have equal opportunities in education throughout the province.
Edmonton Meadowlark.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, 6 weeks ago, it was revealed that fly ash from the Miller Western TP burner was potentially creating toxicity in Whitecourt soils. At that time, the government's response was to have Miller Western move the TP burner, and the government also undertook a control test of the chemical components of that fly ash. That test, the results of that test, have not yet been revealed publicly. To the Minister responsible for occupational health and safety, will the Minister please confirm that the results of that control test in fact have been found to be disturbing and that they have been sent out to a toxicologist for further insight and test into their actual toxicity?
Mr. Speaker, the tests taken by Environment some 3 weeks ago are still under study.
But given that the test is still under study, could the Minister please explain why it is that the TP burner has been allowed to start burning again before we know exactly what the toxicity is of the fly ash?
Well, Mr. Speaker, that question should be directed to the Minister of Environment, not to myself.
Member for Athabasca-Lac-La-Biche.
Mr. Speaker, my question is to the Honourable Minister of Labour. I understand that the negotiations with the Alberta social workers are not progressing as well as expected. Mr. Speaker, my constituency of Athabasca-Lac-La-Biche, specifically the Lac-La-Biche Office of Family and Social Services, faces the highest rate per capita on welfare. And 80% of those are Native people, which is a shame. Mr. Speaker, as I said before in this House, the alternative to my constituents, of course, to welfare is jobs and training. The very jobs you can see on Friday, both the official opposition leader and Liberal leader fought hard to cancel the jobs. They love that. Doom and gloom. Mr. Speaker, my question to the Honourable Minister, so far you have refused to respond to the social workers' request for you to break the deadlock. You are the Minister. Why don't you direct government negotiators to come up with a direct settlement that will cap the caseload and bring pay equity for the female social workers?
Mr. Speaker, as I've said before, what we have done is directed our government negotiators to be ready, able, and willing to come to a solution. And in fact, we have also directed them to offer mediation. And so far, the social workers and the Alberta Union of Public Employees have refused both to come to the table with or without a mediator as of last Thursday. Again, I say, and it's for the very people that the honourable member for Lac-La-Biche-Athabasca has mentioned, is the very people that he is saying who will suffer, and that is those who are on welfare or those who are in abusive family situations that cannot get the social workers' assistance when they need it. It is those very people that we are thinking about and worrying about, and that is why we are asking these caring and responsible professionals to come back to the table where we have put solutions forward so that they can be part of the solution.
Thank you very much. My supplement is to the Associate Minister of Family and Social Services. The problem seemed to be, one of the major problems in the negotiations seemed to be the caseload of social workers. They indicate they're overworked and cannot keep up with the caseload and cannot provide effective service to the clients. My question to the Associate Minister is, what is your department proposing to do with that?
Mr. Speaker, I've hesitated to get into this discussion because of the sensitivity of the negotiations that are going on right now, but I would like to clarify a few issues, one of which is the caseload. We have 518 direct professional staff delivering service to some 82,872 individuals on social allowance, assured income for severely handicapped, fraud investigation, and other things. This breaks down to something like 160 cases per individual, Mr. Speaker. And at times, at peak loads, when there are demands put on the region, there are other people, professional staff, who get involved. And when they do, this reduces it to 70 clients per staff per caseload, Mr. Speaker. We've been, as a department, reviewing this situation for some time now, prior to the negotiations. And during negotiations, we've offered to strike a task force made up of equal members of the union and the Social Services Department, and chaired by a neutral facilitator to try to address the specific concerns that the union is requesting. And this has not been done to this date, Mr. Speaker, which is really unfortunate, because I do feel that the common interest here is the people that are being impacted upon, and I think it would really be unfortunate if we couldn't resolve this through some form of good, compatible negotiations and, if necessary, some form of mediation, but certainly not the action that seems to be contemplated right now. Thank you.
Edmonton Belmont now has the floor officially.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On this eve of May Day, I too have some questions for the Minister of Labor. Mr. Speaker, I've recently been made aware of a document that was distributed to construction workers in Calgary. The paper is filled with anti-union propaganda that speaks of coercion and intimidation. It urges the promotion of those workers who have a very strong anti-union bias and the demotion of those workers who support unions. Now, given that the document breaches the labor code, it probably offends the Charter of Rights, and it may very well fall under at least a couple sections of the criminal code. I'm wondering if the minister will investigate this matter and take whatever steps are necessary to ensure that workers have the right to organize without intimidation.
Mr. Speaker, if the allegations of any not truth at all, they're very serious ones. But let me begin my investigation this very moment and ask the member to please produce the document so that I know that what he's talking about. Then, of course, I could have some rational comment to make.
Do that, Mr. Speaker, and I'll send it over to the Minister of Labor straight away. But I'm wondering if the Minister of Labor would also undertake to discover who might be responsible for that document and take appropriate action against those individuals.
Mr. Speaker, the document is just being delivered now, and I cannot draw any conclusions from having a quick glance at it. This is the very first I've seen of it. I would very much appreciate getting from the honourable member, as I say, as our first line of investigation, some more information from him as to where he got it, the names of people who have come forward to him with it. And certainly I would be more than willing to discuss this subject with him at a later time.
Edmonton Jasper Place, followed by Edmonton Whiteman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is for the Premier. Yakupuri, the Finnish consulting firm, is interviewing members of the ALPAC EIA Review Board in the course of their $400,000 review of the review. The one with the Royal Society will currently reduced to some $20,000. Recently, the questions have been asked of panel members are not simply about the scientific evidence, but they've been asking them about the attitude of panel members towards a new proposal on the ALPAC, the subsequent proposal on ALPAC. And I wonder if the Premier would indicate whether he was the one who initiated the change in the mandate of Yakupuri to get into this new area of evaluating the new and still secret report of the ALPAC EIA review.
Mr. Speaker, I'm sure the honourable member feels badly that he's unable to address this question to the Minister of Environment. He'll certainly take his notice and have him respond to it.
The single most crucial recommendation in the report at page 32, a monitoring program to study the current degree of organic chloride contamination should be set up, managed by a committee. This is all outlined in the report. Last week I was told by 2 Indian bands in northern Alberta that Alberta Environment has dropped out of and canceled meetings relative to monitoring of dioxin and furin on the river. I wonder if the Premier could undertake to reinstate Alberta Environment's participation. It seems to have fallen off the day that the Premier decided to attack the ALPAC report and to get us on this new song and dance that we're on already.
Mr. Speaker, again, there's probably a great deal of misinformation in the way he has posed this question, but I'm sure the Honourable Minister of Environment will be able to review his questions and respond to them.
Okay. Mr. Speaker, last week when I questioned the minister responsible for lotteries, his response reminded me of the hit version of Tiny Tim tiptoeing through the tulip. He totally avoided answering my supplementary question in particular. Mr. Speaker, because lottery funds are not accountable to this legislative assembly, I must direct my questions in this fashion. To the minister responsible for lotteries, will the minister tell me whether information I have received is correct? That is, that lottery funds have been used to purchase briefcases for government MLAs or some government MLAs.
Speaker, there are only government MLAs and opposition MLAs. There are no some government MLAs and some who are not government MLAs. Those MLAs who are elected in the province of Alberta and the members of the Progressive Conservative Party of Alberta are government MLAs, all of them, and they form the government of the province of Alberta.
Mr. Speaker, when the Community Facility Enhancement Program was introduced nearly 2 years ago, and when the announcement was made with respect to the Community Facility Enhancement Program, I made it very clear at that time that this very important program utilizing lottery funds, the return of lottery funds back to the people of Alberta, would be a program that the government would choose not to spend a great deal of dollars advertising by way of media advertisements and the like. And made it very, very clear in terms of the paper that went out that the community liaison officer associated with the Community Facility Enhancement Program would be, in fact, MLAs, government MLAs who chose to do it. And as part of a package of information that was provided to all MLAs who were to serve as community liaison officers, in essence, there was a package of information that was placed in a briefcase. And such a briefcase was provided to government MLAs nearly 2 years ago, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, will the minister responsible for lotteries supply this House with a complete, detailed financial picture of lottery funds, including all expenditures, revenues, and surpluses, and the items such as the item that he just raised?
Mr. Speaker, the annual report of the Western Canada Lottery Corporation is made available to any citizen in Western Canada who would want to have it. The most recent annual report has been made available. In addition to that, Mr. Speaker, there's an annual report of the Western Canada Lottery Corporation Alberta Division that is a public report that has been made available. I believe that on the 16th day of May of 1990, I will have the privilege of appearing before the Public Accounts Committee, in which I would be very, very happy to answer any specific questions with respect to this matter. In addition to that, Mr. Speaker, in a few minutes from now, I believe that the Minister of Public Works, Supply and Services will have the privilege of appearing before this House to answer questions with respect to the minutes. The estimates of the Department of Public Works, Supply and Services, and of all members would be good enough to look at the last vote associated with that particular portfolio. You'll see that there's one item dealing with administration with respect to certain aspects of the lottery fund. Each and every foundation, the Wild Rose Foundation, the Alberta Sports Council, the Alberta Historical Resources Foundation, the Alberta Foundation for the Performing Arts, has an annual report, Mr. Speaker, that lists all of the administration with respect to each and every one of the portfolio beneficiaries of the lottery fund. There are some 20 of them, Mr. Speaker. All of the reports are public, Mr. Speaker, and I would sincerely ask the Liberal Party to make good use of the $500,000 a year provided to it to do research by simply going down to the library, asking for a copy of the report. If they can't find one there, I'd be very, very pleased to ask any of these particular 20 foundations that I've talked about to send the honourable member from Whitemud a copy of such report, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Everton Goldbar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, for some months, questions regarding health care have been deferred because we were waiting for the Heinemann report. Now, $4.2 million, and 4 months after it has been delivered to the Premier, we're still waiting to hear about it. In the meantime, Mr. Speaker, decisions are being made or not being made about health care, increases in premiums, increase in nursing home fees, problems with home care for people under 65, freezes on capital expenditures, voluntary hospitals being rolled into regional boards, and so on. Mr. Speaker, my question is to the Premier. Will Premier please tell the House when that report on the Heinemann Commission will come to this House with his analysis and his recommendations?
Mr. Speaker, the Honourable Minister of Health may wish to augment my reply, and I'm surprised the Honourable member didn't direct the question to the Minister of Health who is here. Just to make it clear to my good friend, the member from Goldbar, the Premier's the Heinemann report did in fact break a lot of new ground in it, thinking about future health care for Albertans. In fact, it expanded the whole image of health into areas including the environment, education, advanced education, recreation, and of course health and family and social services. So, Mr. Speaker, the Minister of Health has the responsibility of coordinating the response from each of the departments involved, bringing them together before our Cabinet, and then we would, of course, be responding to the report's recommendations. I think, Mr. Speaker, it's an excellent report that has given us an opportunity to look beyond on an annual basis, an annual budget basis, how health care should be delivered in the province in the future. And we are looking to being able to use the valuable information that a fine group of Albertans have gathered together for us and allow us to chart our health care into the future.
Mr. Speaker, I still don't know when. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to ask my good friend, the Premier.
What's going on here?
Since we are moving ahead and putting plans and programs in place, does this mean that a decision has in fact been made as to how health care is managed and delivered in Alberta without waiting for the Heinemann analysis and recommendations to be before the House?
Mr. Speaker, as the honourable member and good friend asked the question, the first question of the Premier, my first thought on an answer was, welcome to the world of health. The issues are complex, the issues are dynamic, the issues are changing on a very constant basis. And getting the picture of that in terms of the year 2005, which was the mandate of the Premier's Commission, is what we now have before us. And it's a tremendous advantage as we look to planning new programs, as we look to the consistency of existing programs. And while the honourable member may look for the simplistic solution of simply a timetable to say when, in fact, the far more important issues are how and why. And it is in pulling those kinds of issues together that the Premier has asked that I, as Minister of Health, chair a committee of ministers involving 8 ministries of this government. And I think it really speaks to the how broad the issue of health is today. But it is not a matter of just studying, Mr. Premier. We are taking actions, or Mr. Speaker, we are taking actions with respect to preventive health, to the long-term strategy on long-term care and mental health, all of which are consistent with the recommendations of that commission.
Thank you. Member for Drayton Valley.
The Alberta Pharmaceutical Association has just recently reported that there are over 400 drug-related poisonings in children under the age of 5 every month in Alberta. Would the Minister of Health indicate what initiatives, if any, are in place to try and curtail these tragedies in young children?
Well, Mr. Speaker, here's an excellent example of how the province is undertaking preventive health strategies, certainly consistent with the direction that the Premier's Commission on Future Health Care for Albertans directed us in. This is a startling statistic that the Alberta Pharmaceutical Association has put out, that 400 kids in our province have poisonings related to drug use, prescription drugs, in our province. And it is in concert, and I applaud the Alberta Pharmaceutical Association for their launching today of the annual Great Drug Roundup. Interestingly, this is the 3rd one that's been performed in our province, and last year, over 11 tons of dead drugs, as they're called, were gathered up and collected for disposal.
Supplementary, Mr. Speaker, once they've rounded up all these drugs, Madam Minister, and medications, what are they doing with them? Are they going to garbage dumps, or what's the procedure in getting rid of them?
Well, again, Mr. Speaker, Alberta is a leader across Canada because we are the first province that was able to be part of the collection of these dead drugs, and they are being disposed of in the Special Waste Management Corporation out in Swan Hill. It's a perfect example of the link between environment and health, which was so strongly supported in the Premier's Commission, and I think speaks to the leadership of Alberta on the issue of the environment and our health.
To the Minister of Labour and the Minister responsible for the Human Rights Commission, Mr. Speaker, there are a number of situations occurring in Calgary workplaces where there's ample evidence to indicate that workers' basic human rights, especially the rights of new Canadians, are being violated. The ability of workers in these situations to advance their cases is impeded because, first of all, there's a lack of awareness in how to proceed, and of course this is complicated by language difficulties. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, there are lengthy delays in the processing of these cases. And finally, there's a lack of advocacy skills and an inability to proceed on a collective basis. So my question to the Minister of Labour is, will the Minister take steps to see that funding is provided for community-based advocates who would act on behalf of individuals or groups where reasonable grounds exist to believe that discrimination is occurring?
Well, Mr. Speaker, let me say that the Human Rights Commission caseload has increased quite considerably this year over last, and I think the Commission has greatly succeeded in increasing its profile, particularly because it meets once a month all around the province, so that every month it's meeting in another location around Alberta, and this one is one way of increasing their profile and therefore allowing more and more people to know what steps to take in coming in. Certainly also the cases are all handled by investigators at the Human Rights Commission in the first instance. And I know that when there is a language problem, they do seek out interpreters and others to help them. And they then become the advocates on behalf of the person who has come to them for help. And that's the way the Human Rights Commission is set up. But in any event, we are certainly always interested in hearing ways and means of making this service available to more and more Albertans, because it is a critically important institution that we have instituted since 20 years now.
Taking steps to inform the public that there's still a long way to go. And I wondered if the minister would ensure this House right now that she will introduce measures that would require all employers to notify all new employees of their basic human rights under human rights legislation and rights under the labor code in languages that they're familiar with.
The question period has expired. Might we have unanimous consent to complete this series of questions and to allow the Minister of Advanced Education to give the supplementary information raised by a question by Calgary McNair. Those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, the honourable member has anticipated an announcement by very few hours and days. And certainly we are working on the very thing that he has suggested. But let me say this about human rights in Alberta. And human rights in Alberta is not just the Minister of Labour's responsibility. It's not just the Chief Commissioner of the Human Rights Commission's responsibility. It's the responsibility of each and every Albertan. And each and every Albertan must speak up and must say that we insist on human rights, we insist on understanding, we insist on respect for one another. And the honourable member across the way, the Calgary 4th Lawn, I would appreciate him speaking up in a positive way and as often as he possibly can. It's not that we need to get up and say, isn't it awful we have bigots? It's the positive statements that we have to make, and we must insist that other people live up to our standards. And that is how we are going to have a province that is in the forefront of human rights and understanding.
Advanced Education.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On Friday last, the honourable member for Calgary McKnight had asked the question as to the criteria considered when the Department of Advanced Education gives permission for an out-of-province institution to advertise in Alberta. I suspect, Mr. Speaker, that's to follow up to information I sent to the honourable member's caucus back in January. I would point out, Mr. Speaker, that at the moment, Advanced Education is developing a policy in the whole area of out-of-province institutions. I would further point out that the criteria we use at the moment is whether or not an institution is legally chartered. And further than that, Northland Open University is a federally chartered institution incorporated under the Canada Letters Patent, and therefore there are federal and provincial jurisdictional issues. Mr. Speaker, the permission granted is conditional. If at the conclusion of our review it does not meet that criteria, then certainly that conditional approval will be withdrawn.
Supplementary, Calgary McNair.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you to the Minister. I appreciate that response. My information, however, is that other provinces have not given permission to this so-called university to advertise or to function in their provinces. And I wonder why the Minister did not do the review first and then allow the advertising rather than reverse the order.
Mr. Speaker, further to the information I sent the honourable member, included in that information in January was a list of some 6 other institutions that Alberta Advanced Education has given permission to. We don't feel that we sit in a position whereby we should be making judgments as to what Albertans choose as long as certain basic criteria is met. And the use of that criteria is whether or not Albertans are interested in an open concept university, and whether or not, in our view, that the material offered by that institution is of educational value to Albertans.
Okay. For point of clarification, earlier today, the member for Edmonton White might ask the Minister of Public Works, Supply and Services some questions with respect to the administration of lottery funds. The chair, in retrospect, was in error and should have ruled the question out of order, because the chair felt, when received notice of the question earlier on, The chair was not able to check to see whether or not lotteries would be indeed examined under Public Works Supply and Services, so the chair apologized to the House that earlier the chair should have intervened. Point of order, Westlock Sturgeon.
This is your... You want to go back point of order? Speaker, the point of order is under 4:15, I believe it is, just sorry. 495, subsection 7, with respect to the Honorable Minister of Health, referred to letters and documents in exchange with the proposed Morgenthaler Clinic that I believe should be tabled into the legislature.
Speaking to the point of order, if I may, far be it for me to correct the honorable mature member from Westlock Sturgeon, but referring to the reference raised by Beauchesne, Mr. Speaker, I would draw your attention, sir, to Beauchesne 495, sub 5. To be cited, a document must be quoted or specifically used to influence debate. The admission that a document exists or the reading or the salutation of an address or letter does not constitute citing, and I think the honorable member from across the way has said because the minister had made reference to it, it therefore has to be public. I don't think, Mr. Speaker, if one peruses Beauchesne 495, sub 5, that's not necessary. I would probably think the Honorable Minister of Health, though, would give the address of Dr. Morgenthaler, the Honorable Member, and the member could simply write and obtain the information.
No, you only get one shot at this. Thank you very much. Thank you. No. There's no such thing as a point of order on a point of order. Thank you. Thank you. Honorable member, perhaps the sound system isn't working down there. The chair invited the Minister of Health to comment. Just a moment. No. Honorable members, with respect, if you're... No. In terms of the rulings, the House leaders could perhaps deal with their own caucuses as to what the agreement of the House leaders was with respect to points of order. With regard to the chair has invited the Minister of Health to stand. She has not taken that opportunity. The chair reflects upon Westlock Sturgeon's reference of 495 subsection 7, which reads, when a letter, even though it may have been written originally as a private letter, becomes part of a record of a department. Now, the chair doesn't know whether or not that the letter referred to today by the Minister of Health is indeed part of the record of the department, or whether or not it's a matter of private correspondence. And without seeing that letter, the chair has no ability to be able to rule one way or the other on it. So there's that difficulty with respect to subsection 7. The chair is faced with a situation we'll have to examine the comments made earlier today with regard to the answer given and report back to the House tomorrow. Now we have, before we get to the orders of the day, we have a request, Standing Order 30, Edmonton Gold Bar.
Mr. Speaker, I rise under Standing Order 30 to request the House to adjourn the ordinary business of the Assembly to discuss the urgent matter of the possible job action of Local 6 of the Alberta Union of Provincial Employees. Mr. Speaker, we have had a number of questions and answers today, but they really don't deal with the matter. And speaking to the urgency of it, Mr. Speaker, tomorrow it's entirely possible that professional social workers, child care counselors, psychologists employed by the Department of Family and Social Services may in fact take job action, quite clearly because of the circumstances of their work, which include impossible caseloads. Mr. Speaker, this could leave thousands of Albertans without access to crisis intervention, counseling, emergency services, child protection, family support, income support, support to disabled and handicapped, foster care, adoptions. These, Mr. Speaker, are in many cases our powerless and frightened people, and we are going to leave them without their accustomed help and advice. Mr. Speaker, in all of the answers this afternoon, we have not heard of any plan that the government has to deal with this, no contingency plan whatsoever from the government. Constituencies, all of us know, are being called now for advice as to what to do in the event of job action from residents in our constituency. The anxieties, Mr. Speaker, are mounting. The Minister of Labour today has indicated that the professional workers should come back to the table. Well, it seems to me that the government has not come up with anything that is even close to what's needed, or the social workers would still be at the table, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the Associate Minister of Family and Social Services has spoken about a task force. We don't need a task force. Mr. Speaker, the workers know what needs to happen, and they've made this very plain for months on end. Mr. Speaker, it is absolutely essential that we hear from our government what they plan to do related to this most serious matter. It is urgent. This is a critical situation. It's upon us, and it must be dealt with today.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Under the provisions of Standing Order 30, subsection 2 and 1, first of all, indeed, the Honourable Member for Edmonton-Goldbar has supplied written notice in the approved period of time. But secondly, now having listened to the request for urgency of debate, the Chair feels that as of this moment, as important as the issue may be, as of this moment, the situation is still a hypothetical, and therefore the matter, as explained by the member, fails the test of urgency, and therefore is not in order to proceed. Orders of the day.
Committee is supplied.